is, you know, obviously a push to close system, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I feel like I've had a couple of these that they won't even close like that when you try to. But we're going to talk about some fixes for that. Another thing we're going to be fixing today is how when it just bumps around and opens, what's really happening is enough pressure is getting put on that tooth in there that it just basically opens up. And I don't know if I can force this one with my hands, but the idea on how these work is basically there is a plate. Let me get some other light over here. So there's a plate in there. You can kind of see it right here. It's this black plate. And the top ledge of this black plate is basically the hooking point for this little tooth on this red thing. And then how it opens is when you press down on it, you can see that probably steel or aluminum piece comes down and it presses on the top of this plate, which in turn releases it. Or you can just press this ejection button, which again just releases it. So when that's not working, what's happening is either there's not enough tension to keep that hook on there. That's the bump issue. If you're driving over bumps and it's opening up, that's because this little guy is wobbling and it's just popping the lock unlocked. Or you have the secondary issue, which is basically right here isn't enough of a catch to actually catch that tooth and keep it locked. So we're going to do a couple things today that are going to fix this up. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a little Dremel. I just got one of these things off Amazon. It's like, I think it was like 20 bucks max, and good to have around. I'm going to put a little ball tip on there, and the ball tip is great. I'll show you why, because when we turn it on, when we turn it up, I can actually come in here like a dentist and put a new edge on the top of this tooth. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide the catching tooth with a better surface to grab onto. And you can see when, before I did this, it was kind of rounded off. And that rounded edge is never going to be able to really hold that catch tooth like that caught tooth catch top. So I'm going to come in from this side first. Just real careful, making sure I don't touch those springs or the locking mechanism. Feel like a dentist. Okay, so you can see I've flattened it up a bit. I'm going to come into this other side. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just flattening it out, very gentle, being very careful not to touch anything I'm not supposed to. Okay, so I can feel with my finger that's a much better hook than it used to be, so that's looking pretty good. Let's move on to the red tooth. So on this red tooth, this part's a little tricky, but I'm basically just going to stick this drill bit up in there and try to grind out some of the paint and stuff that's back there that's preventing it from getting a real good catch. I don't know why they use this thick fire hydrant paint. Probably could have gotten away with just a raw piece of metal. But this will clean it up real nice. Sounds terrible. Pretty obnoxious. If you live with anybody, they're probably going to hate you. The closest I'll ever be to being a dentist. I don't like people's mouths. Okay. Pretty good. I want to go back and forth a few times. Make sure it's pretty level, looking good. Okay, let me try that out. Off. So you can see I've already bit of a mess. Let me try to clear that out real quick. Doesn't really matter, whatever. Yeah, that feels much better. It's even hooking on my finger right there a little bit. I might be able to go a little bit more on this upper side. Okay, that feels pretty dang good. And it feels like it's catching well. I'm not able to jiggle it open, even if I really crank on this thing. When I press it, it definitely catches well, because even when I'm trying to press it open with a key latch, it has a little bit of resistance, which we kind of want. And then check our eject. That works. Looks a little too easy. So that's our next fix, is we got to fix that eject button. So first thing we're going to do is come in here and clean up this little red plate on the bottom. So you can see in there, where's my pointer? This little red plate. You see that little spring? The little spring is the only thing keeping this tooth on there. Frankly, they didn't use a strong enough spring. And they probably tested it like I'm doing at a desk instead of bumping it around on the road a bunch. And yeah, it doesn't work. So the fix for that is we get our own spring. And what I did is I just went to the hardware store and I bought this handyman spring set. Oh yeah. And it's assorted springs, a bunch of mixed up springs. And you can tell from my mat, these are 1-inch squares. And it's almost exactly an inch. And when it's compressed, it comes down to maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so here is the tricky part. We want to center this spring on that red plate. So where are my pliers? Let me get those ready. The first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to put a bunch of glue on this guy. I highly recommend you start with just a craft glue or a super glue, because you want to test out some different springs and see which one works for you. And if you start with something like JB Weld, man, you're screwed, because you're not going to be able to get it off without pretty much ruining the whole mechanism. So start with this, find what you need, improve your adhesive later. I'm just using 3-in-1 craft glue. This is just standard, a very jelly glue. I'm going hard. This type of glue, later on, if I want to take it off, I can just kind of rub it off. Kind of makes like a rubbery consistency. Oh, did you see what I mean? It's stuck to my finger. Shit. Okay. Let me cap that off. Twisty shut. Okay, this is the tricky part. So I like to grab these bent needle nose pliers. I don't know why they're pink. I have no idea where they came from. They just have like a bunch of pliers in my life. And I'm going to come in here, and as best as I can, I'm going to center it smack dab on that plate. And I know it probably doesn't look very centered to you from your perspective, but it looks pretty good to me. So I want it to be right there. I don't want it to interact with the little black box that is underneath it that you can see. That's actually a separate spring. They probably could have fixed this issue by just designing the damn thing with a stronger spring in the first place, but this is a pretty easy fix. And that's, you know, assorted springs box, you get probably 100 springs and all different shapes and sizes. You can use them for whatever you want. I think I originally bought that set for a mountain bike spring I needed. Okay, so as you can see, it's sitting there. Now I'm gonna let this guy dry. I have a little laser thing here that is for holding tools, but it actually is perfect for holding this while it's drying. Let me show you. Okie dokie. So we have installed the spring. we have ground down some of the teeth in there, and this thing should be ready to go. I'm going to let it dry for a while, and then I'm going to show you how well it latches. You know, I also want to note, if you're in a pinch, if you're out on the field or something, and you don't have a spring set, and you're sitting here thinking, shit, the first way I got to this is just by stuffing pieces of foam in here, because I figured the issue is probably with the tension on that tooth. And so I just cut up some pieces of styrofoam and stuffed them in there. Maybe some t-shirt if you're in a bind, or something you can stuff in there just to give it a little bit more oomph on that catch. That's what you're gonna want. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fix this lock too. I already fixed one of them, so this will be the third one that I'm fixing. Okay, this one over here has been drying for a minute. It probably still needs to dry a little bit, but overall it's looking pretty good. I'm actually going to click it into place for the rest of its drying time so we can see a lot more tension. Nice, good, solid clicking sound. Ooh, yeah, baby. Perfect. There you go. So that's how you fix these guys. You're good to go install it back on your truck again. And be safe out there. I think this is pretty cheap. I think all of the tools involved in this, you're probably running, I don't know, 30 or 40 bucks for everything included. So hope this helps. Leave a like if you like this video.